It was early 1970s, and I had graduated from college and was really sick of LA and wanted to leave LA, and so hitchhiked to Oregon. And liked it here, went back to LA, opened a store, made money, bought a farm, moved back. What was important to me? Well, I was part of 4 people who decided to move here. So we bought a farm and we moved collectively, the 4 of us. And there was a lot of communal living at that time. And Eugene had a good art market. And so Eugene wound up where we were. Although we had wholesale accounts, we felt we could live wherever we wanted. That was wrong. We couldn't. So it was good we had a Saturday market here.
Yeah.
I was working in a photomat, which was like a coffee booth for photos. People came up and gave you their film and you wrote it down. Came back in a few days, they came back, right?
Yeah.
And I was working in a photomat in Hollywood. And this guy walked by, you're not gonna believe this. This guy walked by with a shopping cart with all his worldly possessions, okay? And began to talk with me. Somehow I thought this was attractive. Well, that was the person I subsequently moved to Oregon with. So we began a relationship, and he was into art, and so we took an adult ed class in Pasadena in pottery. And we opened a store about a year later. So no, it wasn't my field. I pretty much didn't think that I had anything to do with art or could ever have anything to do with art. But a lot of times what teachers tell you about what your abilities are is not necessarily the reality. We bought a wheel. We actually started selling wheels so that we could buy a wheel, and then we rented a store and went for it. Part of an open commune sort of situation. So there were different kinds of what we refer to now as hippies.
Yeah.
There were people who were craftsmen who worked really hard. I mean, we didn't have any time to recreate with recreational drugs because all we did was work. Recreational drugs were like high school, and this was not.
Yeah.
And we just worked hard. And leaving. But we moved here and we bought this farm. There's a picture out here, and it was vastly different than what we thought we were getting. And we built a kiln. I mean, we made the bricks and built the kiln. And it was sort of like this.
Oh.
And it was wood-fired, and it was a lot of work. I appreciate those memories. I appreciate those times. But socially, living with someone who I wasn't married to, living with another couple who were married, the woman of whom was having an affair with the man I was living with, I mean, it was not a good or healthy situation. And in those days, it was common to think that an open sexual relationship was A-okay and something that you should just accept and go along with. And you can try to make yourself think that you should go along with it for a long time. And my parents had no religious upbringing to make me think it wasn't okay, other than how I felt.
Yeah.
It didn't feel okay to share.
Totally.
Yeah. So I never went along with it. So it went on behind my back. When I found out, by then my self-concept was pretty much shredded. And so leaving became the best part of that.
Yeah.
So I moved into a tent and was homeless for a while. Friends who do the Saturday market with me. And so I moved here, I had no friends. And I became friends with people at the market. And when my life disintegrated, those people became the anchors that helped me with that situation. And they happened to be Christians, and that was a pretty much new concept for me. Well, going back to leaving the farm, I moved into a tent with some people out in Cheshire, and they had a friend. Actually, before I ever moved there, they were in a Bible study with this person, and they were praying for me and my situation because it was bad. And I didn't know the people in the Bible study. I didn't know Bible study. And so this person came and helped them with they were building a house, so we were all living in tents,
Yeah.
their family and I, and this person came out to help them, who happened to later become my husband. And we didn't connect at all. I was a hippie and he was very straight, geeky looking guy. So we didn't connect then, and subsequently I came to follow Jesus and wound up in this church, and still didn't have a place to live. And I met this woman who was also a potter, and she said, well, you can move in with me. And I went over to her house, and we kind of hung out, and I thought, okay, this will work. I was very relieved to no longer have to live in a tent with me and my dog, and haul my pottery around in my truck, and maybe have someplace to work. And so I went to church that night, and these people and I walked in together, and this guy came up and sat next to us. And I kind of knew him on sight, but I had never had a conversation with him, really.
Yeah.
And so I just was very excited to get to have a place to live. And I turned to him and said, I have a place to live, and I'd really like to go swing. Where do you think we could go do that? He didn't know what I meant. I meant like in a park, back and forth. Not the other kind of swing in those days. So that was how we got together and swang. And then we spent hours up there talking until finally he asked me when I graduated. And I said, 73. And he said, oh, good, from what high school? And I went, college. So he's 6.5 years younger than I am. And that was rather shocking. My art pretty much my work stayed the same because I was a production potter, and that's what sold. After I had children, after the 80s, and went back to it in 89, my work changed because I no longer had to make a living. I had a husband who made a living. So then I could play, not just produce.
Yeah.
Good question. It means that I didn't follow the lifestyle that my parents might have wanted me to, or what their lifestyle looked like. I didn't leave high school in 1967 looking like this and become a secretary. I left and I worked in a bakery. I had a union job, which you guys can't look forward to, unfortunately, with a high school diploma. You could get a job that would pay you, that you could move out, and you'd have health insurance. What a concept. So I did that part, but then I wound up going to a Quaker college, being part of the peace movement. my father and I had raucous arguments about that. And I began to just go more and more into the politics of the left and against the war. So there are many elements of what a hippie is. There was a drug stream that some people consider hippiness. There was an anti-war stream of hippiness in LA that also did social justice sorts of things like feeding people, having love-ins, and definitely smoking grass. That was still not completely bonzo, always stoned. So, and out of that a crafts movement began. So I was more part of the anti-war crafts movement than I was the drug, never do any work. That's really, I think, a fallacy that some people today think hippies didn't. They were just like lowlifes. So, to me, it means counterculture. Someone who, when we did the Saturday market, I mean, now the Saturday market is embraced. Well, then we had to fight with the county commissioners to exist. Yeah. I mean, have meetings with them and say, we are doing something good for this community, and we do want you to allow us to stay here. And I was chairman of the board for a while and got to go do that with people who later came to my wedding. So it can come around. Well, when I moved here, I was trying to I was trying to believe values that I really didn't believe in terms of personal relationship with my significant other. And that value changed to one that was monogamous. I mean, went back to one that said that a sexual relationship should be within the confines of marriage and should be one that is cherished and has a lifelong commitment. But when I left, my belief was based on the Bible. When I got here, I had no belief based on much of anything other than what I wanted it to be and maybe what my parents had told me. And certainly what college had helped me to formulate. I'm not saying all those ideas were bad or wrong, but they didn't have a great foundation. So following Jesus became a much better. Yes, I mean, because my life is based on who the person of Jesus is, my foundation, who I go to, is still the same. But in the 80s, we went through a very conservative Christian stream, and some of us never really fit that mold. And even though I tried to fit again into a mold, it really was never me. I never changed my party affiliation to Republican. I never went. I just didn't follow that line of thinking too well. Parents were, we always had, even though my father and I fought a lot, and I graduated from high school when I was 17 in 1967, and my father was a newsman. And so he was a very opinionated person, and so was I. So we fought a lot, and it got to the point where living together just wasn't going to work. So they got me an apartment, I left, and I paid for it after the first couple months. But I moved back later, and we always had a good relationship. And when I lost everything and moved into a tent, they sent me money. What I got a degree in. I got a degree in human development. I thought I was going to be a teacher, but yes, they were very supportive, and they loved my husband. I mean, they just thought getting married to Greg was the greatest. So that's what happened in 1977. Idyllic and peaceful and tranquil, and I would be finally living in the country away from LA, and life would be good, and it wasn't. It was not peaceful, not idyllic. It was just hard work and fighting. Public appreciation of the arts and the value of the arts. At the same time, there's less tax money available in schools for art. But there is art for public money for art. Like, we now have laws that say if you build a public building or a building using any tax deferred situation, you must put 1/2% into art.
Yeah.
So we are validating art in a way that we never did when, in the 60s, 70s, early 70s.